Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with our next special guest, Dr. Nisha Manek, and she's here to share with us her new book, Bridging Science and Spirit, The Genius of WilliamATiller's Physics and the Promise of Information Medicine. Now, Nisha is a physician, author, educator, and health coach. Formerly a member of the Mayo Clinic's Division of Rheumatology in Rochester, Minnesota. Nisha is an internationally recognized leader in the field of integrative medicine. Nisha is also a prodigy of Professor WilliamATiller and a student of the practical applications of Tiller's physics in medicine. In her commitment and dedication to innovative approaches to health and wellness, she seeks to synthesize the unity of her work as a physician and scientist with spiritual inquiry and practice. She is a fellow of the American College of Physicians and fellow of the Royal College of Physicians in the United Kingdom. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Nisha Manek.
Hey, good to join you, Marianne. Hi from California.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. This title's perfect because it does bridge science and spirit. And I think most people have been going, gosh, I've been waiting for a book like this all my life.
That's true. A lot of readers have reached out to me and said, finally, you have linked concepts in a way that I can go from where we are in science all the way through consciousness where we are in research and then bridge it to spirit. And I didn't think you could do it in spirit, but by golly, you verified a science protocol in spirit. So, Marianne, this book was, it's my creation from Bill Tiller's work. William Tiller is a professor of physics at Stanford University. He's now retired, but I left the Mayo Clinic to look at his work a little bit more because something told me inside that his work is worth paying attention to because it's closer to the truth than anything that I could have seen in science and certainly medical sciences. So, and it's also a very special book because it's illustrated. I am a visual learner, and so I drew lots of doodles, and they were converted to publishable art by an Italian illustrator. He's in northern Italy, and Dario converted those doodles into something that people and readers can anchor their learning. Okay, so they walk across the bridge from where we are through all these concepts and then go, I can understand how spirit and science fit together. They're not separate. They're never separate, actually. So they inform each other, and this is what I call top-down science. You go into the very high truths that look almost miraculous, and then we understand how science can fit there, how it informs us with numbers, quantities, which is all about measurements. So I'll stop right there and let you have a word in, okay, Marianne, because I tend to talk a lot.
Well, that's what you're here to do, right? to really share this with us.
Yes, I want us to also have a conversation because there's so many concepts in Bridging Science and Spirit that we could go into week-long conferences, literally, okay? People have said, but Nisha, I wanted more on this aspect or more on that aspect. So it is little bite-sized things linked together in a bridge, 7 pillars that takes the reader right into spirit. I wanted them to really know that science is not separate at all from the spiritual. One is the outer way of knowing, the other is the inner way of knowing, but they're both important and fit together.
Well, how exciting that we live in a time where this information has just come together, because I think a lot of times people have felt like they kind of contrast or they don't really go together. And it's so nice to know, hey, you know what? There's a lot of information there that says just the opposite.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at human history in the 13th, 14th, 15th centuries, the church was where you found the truth. They handled science, okay? They were in charge of it. And then the big split, it's not really a split, but Rene Descartes really came with the rational science movement. And that really happened in the 17th century, around mid-1600s. Rational science. We can actually look at nature and measure it and look at the numbers and make sense of it. Okay? And he also said, I am my thoughts tell me I exist. So mind and body was separated. And so came this very important rational science, which took off and split from this church, okay? And so you have theology and rational science as big towers of learning. And now 400 years later, we're coming back and rediscovering that science and spirit actually do fit together again. The rational science, the skeptical mind, the doubting mind is important. But now we've evolved and matured to a certain way that we have to look at that scientific method and say, well, doubt is all very well, but at a certain point, the anomalous and miraculous also need a new science to explain it, okay? And it can. And only very few minds can go there. And I think WilliamATiller is one of those who brought the inner way. He's a meditative mind, a magnificent mind, but he had one other piece. He knows mathematics. He knows physics and could do the anomalous research in a way that is meaningful, the numbers make sense, and most important, could interpret them in a rational way and say, wow, this miraculous, target experimental data can really, we can make sense of it. In other words, he tested the power of human intention in controlled condition in the lab setting, okay? And so when you have these rigorous scientific protocols in place, and when you do your intention as a test, you're looking at it, does it really have an effect on materials out there? He showed you can. He showed that over and over again. And that is remarkable. That to me was mind-blowing, that human intention can actually have effects so large you can measure it in a physics lab. And to me, as a medical doctor, that really is a game changer. Okay, it really tells me, well, if a human being can change things so remarkably, and he actually changed water, he changed human enzymes, which is alkaline phosphatase in the lab. Well, then what does it mean for medicine? That's where I came in, okay? And he calls it information medicine. I'm going to just stop there for a moment because you might have questions.
Well, it's interesting because when I look at both your background and Dr. Tiller's, what was it that initially got you interested in Dr. Tiller's work?
I was very interested. Now, as a medical doctor, I have been trained in anatomy, histology, biochemistry. That's where I focus on. So in my daily practice, I analyze the body's system through blood testing. I'm looking at the body's chemistry. I do x-rays to look at the physical structure, and then I try to piece it together to fix something. Okay, so we're really looking for disease, something that's dysfunctional, and then we try to correct it with a prescription. This is really my paradigm, which is chemical medicine. And really, Marianne, if we really look at that paradigm, it has helped us a great deal, but we are stuck in the chemistry milieu. Chemistry is not the whole answer. And I think it's very limited thinking. And so I came to it from, there is more to chemistry than just, looking at truth. And I actually came to Tiller's work from the biofield, subtle energies. And these are acupuncture meridians, which we now know definitely exist in the body. It's taken Western science a long, long time And I think part of the reason I cover it in Bridging Science and Spirit is that when we cannot see things, in structure, or we cannot measure it readily, then we have a hard time with it. Okay, we really want things that we can measure, we can see, they're tangible. Okay, and the subtle energies are not tangible, but they're very real. And they're very real because when you do Tai Chi and yoga or Qigong, which is a form of Tai Chi, I can feel things. I can feel things in my body. It's tingling. It can be warmth. It can be things I can play with. Literally, I say the play with, because when I first did my Qigong class, I felt things, and I'm a very rational person. And I thought, well, I can feel it in my hands. I can bounce a ball. It's invisible between my hands. I can expand it, contract it, and move it around. What is this? But if you put a device like an electromagnetic intention with my consciousness, and that's where Tiller gives a structure. He called it subtle energies. Subtle energies, the word subtle is misleading because it almost makes us think of something very weak or ephemeral, but it's very real. And what he meant by the word subtle is that it's difficult to detect with conventional science instruments. And so with intention, when I do Qigong, I can rev up my acupuncture meridian system. Now, underneath any chemistry is this real pump of subtle energy or acupuncture system really doing the work. Even if I move my muscles, if I move my brain, to talk to Marianne, the underlying systems that feed it are the acupuncture meridian system, which is really astonishing. So the physics tells us that when you do anything in nature, when you work, energy potentials move things. So in the physical body, it's not just chemistry. The underlying, if you like, energy pump is the acupuncture system. So already I could find, okay, when I give a steroid or I make a change in diet, it's all very well. But if I do Tai Chi, wowzers, you're really now bringing in a bigger change, a bigger energy potential that powers up the chemistry. So actually one change that Tiller's physics made to my practice was at the bedside, I might prescribe a medicine or a diet change or a supplement, but I always tell my patients, start some Tai Chi practice. And this is for some patients, when they take this seriously, they really begin to see magnified changes. So they might have a methotrexate or turmeric supplement, but when they do Tai Chi, they are powering up their wellness. But here's the bigger issue. They're taking charge and learning a skill set that's theirs. They're not just leaning into the doctor. They're leaning into their own energy system, which nature has provided. It was already there, okay? So many of my patients say, I never knew this. I never knew that Tai Chi could really power up my wellness. But then we go into the third. So you have chemistry, you have energy, but here's where Tiller really, really changed my thinking. Intention, okay? When you make a decision, you're thinking is your intention. So when I get up, I have an intention all the time. It's playing in the background, okay? I had my coffee. I meditated. I got ready to speak with Marianne. I wanted to share information, which I am creating right now as I speak with Marianne. None of this is prepared, actually, okay? It really comes to serve the listeners well. That intention is playing out every single time. Right now in my clinical practice, it's telemedicine. I show up, I listen to my patient, and then I dive more into their information. That means what gives the meaning. what is the biggest healing thing that they have experienced? When we go there, and they're very surprised, by the way, by this line of questioning, we open up a treasure trove of things that are really meaningful for them. Okay. And so, yes, I prescribe medicines, and yes, I will tell them about breathing, about Tai Chi, about yoga. And some of them say, yeah, I'm exploring that, but I'm not sure where it fits. And so we dive in there and explore it. And then I say, what gives meaning to your life? I'll give you an example right now, because since we're talking about it, I serve underserved populations in the upper Midwest with rheumatology, because they don't see many rheumatologists out there, and they really need rheumatology services. So some of these are, Indian tribes on the reservations, and I'll say to them, I ask, what is the tribe? What is the deep spiritual teaching in your tribe that gives you great meaning? What is one thing you can share with me? And they'll say something like, I have my voices to the spirit world, and it's not even a prayer. It's my voices connected to them. And so this thing, when they say to me, it creates a deeper sense in the clinical encounter. And now I can go there, and we both go there and say, how could that voice be tailored? How could that be that voice is really intention, be crafted in a way that helps your arthritis? And so we work with it, and they come away with a much more, and by the way, it's me too, I come away with something that is deeply enriching and nourishing, and then we are linking to their wellness in a powerful way. We create something that they come away and go, this is instinctual to me. This is my tradition. This is my inheritance. So it's not separate from my physical wellness. So we're bridging the scientific thing, which is Nisha Manek, and my diagnostic thing, and then we link it to their spiritual tradition. Do you see what I'm saying, Marianne? I'm going to stop there for a moment.
Yes, I do see what you're saying. And I found it really interesting with all this that comes together. I mean, both you and Dr. Tiller have something in common that I don't think a lot of people know about. And, you kind of discuss about how A Course in Miracles kind of brings us all together in some way.
You remind me of this outstanding time. So, Dr. Tiller, he didn't reply to my emails and notes to connect. I said, I don't understand your papers, but something inside really tells me this is the truth, and I really need to ask you questions. Well, it took a while for his associate, Walter Dibble, to answer my emails. And then it took some more time to say, I'm coming to Scottsdale. He's retired. He lives in Arizona. Please, I really want to meet you. And I was giving a lecture at a medical conference in Arizona. I was at the Mayo Clinic at the time. And he finally said, okay, I'll meet you for dinner. And I thought, wow, I'm in. See, I'm even clapping my hand. I was so excited. And I was absolutely terrified. I didn't know what questions to ask this mind. I mean, I had so many. It was really muddled, but you really want to make use of the time. So we meet at the dinner, and I was asking him questions around subtle energies, these energy systems, but there's one thing in his model he talks about is that when you look at materials, which is matter, the physical body, it's slower than the speed of light. It's very, very coarse. But consciousness and intention are faster than the speed of light. They're superluminal. Now, these are all new words to me, but they were very clear. I said, yeah, we're looking at the coarse things and something really faster than the speed of light. Well, in his model, the connector is a particle called deltrons. Deltrons connect the slower than the speed of light and the faster than the speed of light worlds. Okay, they're there. Einstein said nothing goes faster than the speed of light. Well, there's a limiting thought right there. Okay, I want to put it right up front. That's wrong. Okay, it's wrong. It's right only if you look at this at the material world, at the physical things, photons, which is light particles, electrons, which is electricity, and things like that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking consciousness. We're talking about intention. So the connector is the deltron. So in that dinner meeting, I asked him, when you work with spiritual things like A Course in Miracles, I think you form more deltrons, right? And he said to me, yeah, I know Helen Schuckman. She came to me in the mid-70s, and that's when I stopped. I mean, I think I was in mid-dinner. I said, you know A Course in Miracles? He says, yeah. Helen Schuckman, the scribe, came to me in the mid-70s with the original manuscript of A Course in Miracles, and she wanted to see what I thought about it. So Tiller and Jean Tiller, his wife, had read A Course in Miracles. Okay, one of the first manuscripts. He read it. He liked it. He says, this is how I live my life. I live with the inner way. I live with the laws of God. And the laws of God are not limited to the laws of this, that, and the other, the laws of the speed of light. They make no sense to me. And so I know what that meant. But to me, to Nisha's ears, when he said he had read A Course in Miracles, Marianne, to me, that was also a big thing that I had found my mentor. In a sense, Tiller knew the physics, and Helen Schuckman, a fellow scientist, she was a psychologist at Columbia University and the scribe of A Course in Miracles, had brought this to Tiller's world. And, that's magnificent because it told me Helen was guided. She was guided to come to Tiller, a scientist very much in the conventional milieu, but she could see that Tiller also had this spiritual giant in him who could link the two together. And actually at the time, Tiller says, I didn't want to go with there's a foundation for inner peace. There's a foundation that publishes a course, but he said, I really needed to build the bridge. That was my responsibility, because once we have a bridge from science to spirit, then people can start to see how the links form, and it will be the biggest service to the world, to science, that they can form with data. And because science is very important to our modern world, science is where people look to for confirmation. And I am going to do that work to lay the bridge down. So that's why I wrote the book. So to me, I knew I needed to walk out of Mayo Clinic, because if Tiller knows A Course in Miracles, and I was a student of A Course in Miracles at the time, and it was very, very important to me. A Course really informed me about very high spiritual ways of mind, of ways of thinking. And if Tiller knew it, then that was the mind I wanted to go with. Do you see?
Yeah. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with us, because you in your own right, I mean, you're very much a scientist, as it is as well.
Yes. And, so just like at the bedside, I ask my patients, what gives you big meaning? To the, Native American patients, what is your spiritual tradition? How does it inform your life today? And for some, it doesn't. It's covered up. Let's put it this way. It's covered up. And the conversation, we go there and we say, let's dust it off. Which tribe are you? What is the spiritual traditions you come with? And for some, it's a homework. They go back and they have to rediscover those things, because there's great, truth. There's great anchor to not only Mother Earth, but how their unwellness right now, their physical challenges can go. You can go there and you can start to heal in a deeper way. In other words, you're building new information or rediscovering the information that was already there. That's informational. Now you can tap in, you get energy, you get energized. I can even see on the camera, in the telemedicine, how their body posture changes. It's like The spine is sitting up. It's very wonderful for me to see that, because now I can tell the acupuncture system suddenly got enlivened or entrained with their heart, and they're sitting up. Even their body posture changes. Now they have something. Okay, now you have something to anchor in. Then you can work with them slowly, rediscovering more and more expansiveness, not just the body, but you're layering and rediscovering and layering. And it's a really beautiful discovery. Yeah.
Well, you briefly touched on that there are 7 pillars, and I'd love for you just to kind of briefly go over what those are. I mean, your book, Bridging Science and Spirit, has so much great information. I mean, people have to get the book and read it, but I think it'll be great to have people understand that what those 7 pillars are.
Yes, I start the book with Copernicus, he was a bishop in the church. He was in the church, and he said the church's view about Earth being the center of the universe is incorrect. The math is approximate, but not quite. He was not satisfied. And he says, okay, I'm going to look at the heavens and doing my own mathematics. And he did this in secret. Can you believe it? So even in that time, he would go up to the heavens, look through a thin metal tube, and actually followed Mars. He did Mars would follow its trajectory, did mathematics, and realized that actually if you put the sun as the center of the solar system, then the whole mathematics falls neatly into place. All the planets, Jupiter, Saturn, you could see those heavenly bodies. And when you do the trajectories, he realized that Earth is not the center. It's really the sun. And he hid his manuscript. He hid it for many, many decades. And then he published it in 1543, or the orbits of the heavens, or something like that it's called. And that was the first revolution, that science, when you do the numbers and interpret it correctly, then you have a way forward to the truth. And that is the truth that stands the test of time. The sun is still the center of our solar system. So I opened the book with that first pillar. And then I also look at René Descartes, and how he formed the rational science that we still live by today, Cartesian system, the whole coordinate system, which is very important in graphs and so on, that we use today in science. Those tools are very, very important, and alive, okay? But he also put the skeptical mind front and center. So Descartes, this skeptical mind can trip us up. So that's the first pillar. And I end the first pillar with, is the speed of light really the limitation? Really, is that where we want to go? And I say we have to go beyond it. And I give the example of the Higgs boson. So that's pillar number 1. And that's a lot right there. Pillar number 2, we cover consciousness. And consciousness is not the brain. I give examples and why that is a limiting belief, okay? Pillar number 3, we go to thermodynamics. And now that's a bit of a technicality, but I needed to form the readers' platforms so that they're not, they know what energy is from the physics perspective, what entropy which is disorder is, and coherence. Okay, we want to know that, and we also want to know information from the perspective of thermodynamics. Pillar number 4 is where Tiller really tested his intention to change materials out there. The so-called target experiments, what the data showed, and it really turns science upside down, in my view, that human intention can measurably change materials out there, water pH, human enzyme, and the living system, the fruit fly. Pillar number 5, I go into something that Tiller stumbled into, the El Dorado of physics, the physicist's gold, which is space conditioning. And here I unpack symmetries in nature. There are deep symmetries in nature that inform us into how things really function in nature. And we are connected with that. Human intention taps us into the physical vacuum, okay, the space. And then I go into what that means in pillar number 6 of the bridge, which is information medicine. I give real world examples of human intention healing people, subtle energies which travel thousands of miles. Tiller's in Arizona, but his intention is not located physically in Arizona itself. You can project or broadcast information thousands of miles, not through a telephone wire, but through field effects. And this whole concept of field effects are terribly important. In medicine, we don't even talk about fields. We only talk about the human biofield, and we locate it by the human system, which is very, very non-local, but these are non-local effects, okay? They travel without decay thousands of miles to the recipient. And so Tiller did healing experiments with autistic children, with people with loneliness, which is epidemic. And also we did a case report on a person with arthritis. So that's information medicine. And finally, in pillar number 7, we looked at, this is really fascinating, the Buddha's relics. Relics of the historical Buddha still exist today. They survive for 2,600 years. And relics, if people don't know what they are, relics are remains of a Buddha master, Master Jesus. His cross, where he was crucified. People have collected the wooden pieces, and I can give you lots of examples, but basically relics are the remains of a very high consciousness. That high consciousness leaves things, artifacts and things behind that hold the essence. And for Buddha, it was loving kindness. And so I came across these relics and imprinted one of the Tiller devices, which we tested with Tiller's model. And it turns out that the Tiller physics speaks to the Buddha's relics. And by the way, I gave this paper I wrote to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Okay, so they're aware that this work is there, and the Buddha's relic is a vital clue to the whole question of consciousness, because it's a device. It's not a brain. It's like a pearl-like device that holds the essence. It's conscious. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it. This object is conscious, and it doesn't have flesh and bones. It's nobody there. There's no body. Okay, so in pillar number 7, we look at the spirit side of things, at the space, at consciousness again, and it comes back to us. We are evolving, Marianne, from Homo sapiens, the thinking mind, to a spiritual species, Homo spiritus, Homo illumini, which is the self-illumined man. And I even give a third example, Homo universalis, the brotherhood of man. And I say these things even with our current milieu of a very divided world. And, if you look at history, this is repeating itself. This is not new. We will come up stronger. This is our platform to reach higher, to reach within and without, and build a stronger species and leave the world a stronger and more resilient and a bigger world for the children and grandchildren who are here. And you know what? They observe us. They learn through observation. They gather information and they learn from us. We are the teachers of the world today. And I would say to the listeners, don't die as a student, die as a teacher. I'm going to stop there.
Well, how true is that? I mean, because when we look at legacy, it's like, what type of legacy are we leaving for the world? And one that's more empowering, I think, is the place to be. Yes, it sure is. We've covered a lot, Marianne, and I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. We've condensed a lot here in just half an hour. Oh, we didn't even, touch the tip of the iceberg with this book, not even a little bit. Where can our listeners connect with you, Nisha, and learn more about your book and your work and be part of your community?
Oh, thank you. So my website is nishamanekmd.com. So it's my name, Nisha Manek, Manek, MD.com. And there'll be some blog posts that I'll be putting in there. And there are tools from Bridging Science and Spirit, which I put out as the pandemic unfolded. And these are for the people who are already on my email list. And the feedback I received was just amazing. And I realized I really need to reshape them and put them as blog posts. And they'll be going up in the next couple of weeks and months. So I do encourage your listeners to sign up. And by the way, when they sign up, there is the original science paper that I published around the Buddha's relics, and it's from the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. And it's hard to get these scientific papers, and it's open access. When the reader or listener signs up, they can download the full-length paper. And I encourage them to read it and reread it, because as you do that, the truth and the scientific nuggets unfold for you in your own life. It's good to sit with these things. We're of a society of fix it quick. I want it now. Instant gratification. But I tell you, this paper, when you sit with it, the truth will be revealed to you second time, third time reading it. So it's free for you. It's there. You can download it.
Oh my goodness, what a great gift that is. Well, Nisha, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It's been a pleasure, Marianne. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for giving me this chance to speak about my explorations and about Dr. Bill Tiller.
Well, thank you, Nisha. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Bridging Science and Spirit. Bridging Science and Spirit's available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. And of course, it's available on Kindle. If you'd like to connect with Nisha, you can at her website, nishamanekmd.com, for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.